Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Well, I'm out here once again working on the 1970 Dodge Charger that needs plenty of love and attention. No, in all seriousness, this is like one of the cleanest cars that's ever been in my shop. You guys saw in the last episode, got this car blasted, got all the panels in epoxy. It's freaking amazing, you guys. And it's not gonna take a whole lot of work to get all the sheet metal squared away on this car, and that's really going to start today. Now, as far as repairs go, you guys know there's a couple little pinholes, a couple little issues here and there. We've got some bracing, some structural work to do here on the radiator support, a lot of odds and ends kind of thing, some dents to work out. But really the only major welding that we need to do on this car, aside from, of course, the US Car Tool Stage 2 chassis stiffening kit, is to install this trunk pan. So thankfully the customer had already gone through, removed most of this for me, so made the job very, very easy. And then after I had it blasted, I went ahead and put about 4 coats of epoxy primer on the inside of the frame rails. So they are really good to go. They're rock solid, no metal repairs, no rust repair needed at all. And which again, I'm very fortunate to have a car this clean in here, because that's just gonna make the job turn out better and go that much faster. But you guys can see here, I've got the trunk pan slid up into place. I've got it pinned here in a couple places with some screws to hold everything down. Now, the beauty of working on a car that's this solid to start with is that the trunk pan sits perfectly flat. I'm not, having to screw this thing down and really, use a hammer or anything like that. Literally, the pan sits in there absolutely perfectly flat, just the way that it is. I did have to go ahead and break free these valance corners. You guys can see this one is gonna have to be replaced anyways. It's got these strange, bullet holes. It's got some weird holes here. And then also this car features the body line delete with a little bit of weld here, which obviously is not factory. Of course, that repair there is not factory either, but we're gonna get to that here in the next couple days. But no, I had to go ahead, drill this out. We've got one little repair to do right here on this rear cross rail, but the trunk extensions went on there really nice. I like to fit these as early in the process as possible. I don't know if I'll be able to weld them in off the car, which is just fine, just because of the quarter panels being in the way, and I don't want to bend anything or do anything crazy, but I've got them pinned in like I'll show you here on the bottom side. The fitment is nice and flush here with the cross rail across the edge, just like that. This valance corner is actually in great shape. It's gonna fit just fine. And I can go ahead and, ouch, pinch the shit out of my finger right there. I can go ahead and match all this stuff up here back to where it was. And I did take some measurements from a couple different places here on the rear quarters. And that's really just to make sure that the opening side to side is exactly where it needs to be. Because if that's not straight, then the deck lid's not going to fit, and we're gonna have a bunch of other issues. But all that stuff looked good. And jumping ahead here just a little bit, let me show you the work that we're gonna do here on the bottom side to make this job a whole lot easier. All right, now I know I've showed you guys multiple times on how to do these trunk pans, but I know a lot of you guys like to see how the sausage is made and watch the overall process. But before we jump into that, I did not show you guys how absolutely freaking beautiful the bottom side of this car looks when it's all blasted and it's all in epoxy. I mean, we got a couple little somethings going on here. Somebody sent it over a parking block or jumped it or had something fun go on in the past. But no, we're gonna make this trunk pan look just as good from the bottom side. Now again, I know I keep on harping on it. This car is so nice and clean, you guys. The frame rails are immaculate. Actually, this gas tank support piece, or this lower trunk pan support, is phenomenal. There's not a single hole in it, no rust repair needed whatsoever. So when you have a car this clean, you can just go ahead, lay the trunk pan down, and you're gonna have fitment that good. And I literally have 2 screws holding down the trunk pan. The AMD floor pans, like I've showed you guys, the trunk pan, the floor pan, all these pans, really all of their sheet metal for these B-body Mopars fit phenomenal. And yeah, I don't know why you'd spend money anywhere else than with AMD on these, because they are really, truly that good. So once you get the trunk pan kind of situated exactly where you want it, you guys can see here, I went ahead and scribed all the way around the frame rails, all the way around the rear leaf spring supports, that lower trunk pan support piece. really anywhere where there's going to be kind of perimeter welding or some plug welding going on. Because as soon as you finish that, we can then pop it back out of the car and start drilling our holes, obviously just inside of where those marks are. Now, I prefer to use an 11/32 drill bit. I know it's a really weird off the wall size, but when you pick up a 3/8, it's a little bit too big. And if you go any smaller than this, it looks a little bit too small. So in my opinion, these right here are absolutely just right. So yeah. So now we get to get the trunk pan back out of the car, drill a whole bunch of holes, and then we can prep the insides of those frame rails. Alrighty guys, so the trunk pan is now out of the car and on the floor. One recommendation, guys, always put some wood underneath here. If you don't, you're gonna get carried away because there's about 150 holes to drill and you're gonna run that drill bit straight into the ground. That's why I actually always buy a couple extra, because it's going to happen. So if you got a pallet, throw it on there. It's gonna make your life a whole lot easier. Now, I have gone ahead and already put all of my dots on here for where I'm gonna drill all the holes. And again, you guys can see the outline of the Sharpie here, right there. And you wanna put your holes just on the inside of those, so that way it lands perfectly on the frame rail. Now, full disclosure, you're gonna miss some. It's not a big deal. You can weld them shut, no problem at all. But the more accurate you are with the marker, it's gonna make the job a whole lot nicer, cleaner, and then also kind of laying out where all your dots are. Everything's going to be symmetrical and it's going to look really nice in the car. Now, the only other piece that I will have to do right now is the gas tank straps. I do like to drill those holes out and go ahead and weld those here on this side of the trunk pan. So go ahead, pop those out, clean them up, and weld them on. And with just a little bit of movie magic, our holes are already drilled in our gas tank support braces. And what do you know? I've already got the trunk pan also drilled out. Now, if you guys would do me a solid, hop down in the comments below right now, guess how many holes it took to drill in this trunk pan. Whoever gets the closest is gonna get some free merch. You guys can see there's holes everywhere. There's holes along the perimeter edges. There's holes up and down each one of the frame rails, the gas tank strap there in the middle. Yeah, there are many more than what you think might be in there, okay? So go ahead, toss your guesses below, and I'll get back with whoever guesses the closest. Now, these little bad boys right here, these go in a very specific place on the trunk pan, and I've actually covered this in my other charger video here, but you guys can see, kind of always map it out the exact same with the dimples on the floor there, but there is a spot where it sits just to the edge right here. There's also a spot just to the edge right there that these sit. Now, of course, these also need to be in line with the rear cross rail and where that gas tank support brace lines up. So if you want to do just an extra verification, you can also set the trunk pan up in the car, drill these into place of where they're going to be, and then also just make sure that they're straight lines, because obviously they go in a very particular spot on the gas tank there, front to back. One other thing, you guys can see there's an oblong hole here. Thin hole always goes towards the bottom, because if you can imagine, that support brace or that little bolt is going to slide through the big hole, go to the little hole, get tightened up, and it's held into place. I've actually got these before where the hole was on the wrong side, so had to open up the hole and make it basically the opposite of what it was. So really from here, guys, we'll go ahead, we'll weld these on outside of the car, and once that is done, we can get this trunk pan in the car, tack it down all over the place with our screws, make sure we're all good to go, and then we can finally start burning in this trunk pan. And with just a little bit of welding, you guys can see here, we got our gas tank straps all nice and mounted on there. I'll go ahead and clean those up once we start kind of grinding down and finishing up all the other welds that are gonna be on this trunk pan. Now, before we go slapping this thing into the car, there is one major thing that still needs to be done, and that is the surface prep of the rear frame rails. Now, heaven forbid this car gets put in salty conditions, wet conditions, or anything like that. We don't want the rear frame rails or this trunk pan ever rusting again. Now, I've already worked ahead just a little bit more, and you guys can see here we have got our beautiful rear frame rails all cleaned up. I coated the inside of the frame rails with about 3 coats of the zero rust material that I like to use, so that way it protects the inside of those for basically ever and ever. We won't have to worry about this at all again. Now, I also went ahead, ground down just the top of the rear frame rails with a flap disc, cleaned all that stuff up, and obviously all the gold here, or all the copper color, is that copper weld-through primer from U-Pole. So all this stuff is dry, it's ready to weld on, and frankly, I am ready to slap in that rear trunk pan and do a whole bunch of welding on the backside of this car. So without further ado, let's get this thing in here and let's get to welding. Alrighty guys, so I worked late into the night last night, got the trunk pan pretty much all wrapped up, at least the main portion here. And really at this point, it's just the trunk extensions as well as the welding needed here around the wheel houses. But you can see everything lined up really good. It is super tight fitment there to the cross rail. And then also I did use quite a few self-tappers just to make sure it was nice and tight, but you know, no crazy gaps to fill or anything like that. But got the seam here up at the front. That's always the fun part, as I call it. But that's all wrapped up. So really at this point, I've already gone ahead. I've fit up the trunk extensions here on both sides. You guys can see the copper weld through primer there peeking out. And yeah, nothing to it but to clamp it together and weld it up. All right guys, so I got all the trunk extension pieces welded in, and really the only thing left now is the wheel wells, but I kind of like to save those for last, just in case there is a little bit of flexing here with the rear frame rails and getting the tail panel on and all that stuff. So trust me, there's a rhyme to my reason here, and I'll try my best to kind of walk you guys through it. But you know, looking up here, the inside, you guys can see there, you know, everything nice and tidy. Now, thank goodness I have a whole bunch of flap wheels, because there is a lot of grinding to do yet on this car. But before we do that, I want to get these valance corners situated here so that way everything is locked in and we're pretty much ready to slap the tail panel and the rear valance on this car. And I have gone ahead, I already put this valance corner back on, and nothing crazy here guys, literally matching up the holes to where they were previously when I drilled it out. everything turned out nice, and it is rock solid. Now, what is not rock solid is this corner right here, and really this entire thing, which we'll get to that here in a little bit. But again, not sure if this corner kind of took a hit here. They cut that section there out of another car, and they really like the stud welder from what we've seen in other places on the car too. But yeah, it's butt ugly. And then also they kind of started to delete this body line here, which is a big no-no. You can see there's weld kind of hidden underneath there. So what I'd like to do, I've already drilled out the top here. This is all really free. I'm gonna cut it just short of this line right here and then work it in with the just a roll-lock disc on a grinder, so that way I don't damage anything else here on the quarter panel, and we can just kind of surgically remove this butt ugly valance corner. And you know, like everything else in this car, thankfully AMD makes pretty much everything you need, and so that is gonna look a million times better than that. All right guys, so I got the valance corner off the car here, and really so much for being surgical, right? This piece ended up pretty much falling right off the moment that I had it ground off, so that's gonna go obviously straight into the trash pile. Now, as I started to dig into here, when whoever did this kind of patch piece repair right here, they also welded on kind of this tab here on the back, on the valance corner. So yeah, the moment that I opened that up, it just completely fell off also. And obviously I'm not going to weld a little flange on the crappy panel, so figured why not go ahead and throw in this lower quarter patch. And you know, overall, pretty good fitment here. I did leave the body line on the patch piece, just because really close to the body line and anywhere lower than the body line was absolute trash on the piece that was on the car. So got this side fitting up great, but the patch piece here does come from a skin, which those of you guys that have used skins, they're really not meant to be like full quarter replacements, okay? They're really meant to kind of part and piece out sections that you might need. And so they're not always perfect. And you can see this one here is actually a little bit too long. So the line right here on the back of the quarter panel also lines directly up with that valance corner. And so what I'm gonna have to do after we get this thing fully welded in, blended, cleaned up, I'll go ahead and slice right here, just short of the edge. And typically, especially with something that's that small, just the width of the grinding wheel itself should be enough to actually just cut it straight off, put it back on there and weld it back on, or maybe just a touch of grinding, but it ain't gonna take a whole lot to get that lined up exactly where I want it. But that'll be nice. There is one, you guys probably saw this part right here. I'll worry about that after I get the rest of this on. Probably end up just cutting this piece right here out and putting it on the car. But yeah, essential part. This is a really key piece here to the overall back structure of the car. And of course, whenever you're working flat panels like this, got to be slow and steady and be like Billy the Kid with that air gun, right? Like have it at the ready, hit it as soon as you hit your weld, finish it up, cool it off, because you don't want any major warping, which this panel does have a little bit of that already going on, but I don't want to make anything any worse. So I also need to clean up the edge of this. We're going to weld that solid, DA that down nice and tidy, so that way you can't even see that that's there either. So yeah, probably going to be here a little bit making some repairs, but this quarter should look like brand new once we're done. Alrighty, you guys, well, things are about wrapped up here on the back end before I can actually burn this entire thing together, but it's coming together really, really good. You guys can see excellent fitment here on the valance corners. Had to tighten up that gap just a touch, but that looks amazing. And oh, will you look at that? I've already got everything kind of prepped and ready to put in, but all this stuff has to come back off, and I'll explain that here in just a second. But you know, this patch turned out really good. I'm still gonna come back through here, metal fish some of that stuff. But no, patch here turned out great as well. Went ahead and blended that here on the inside. So very, very minimal body work needed, no warping, anything crazy like that. And again, I left the body line here on the patch piece there on the bottom. But taking a look here at the back, makes me feel like the car is a whole lot further along than it actually is. We still have a ton of welding to do here. But the tail panel pinned right back into where it was when I originally pulled it off. I then slid the valance, the lower valance here, up underneath the bottom side of that, and you guys can see I already punched out all of the holes needed there, and I've already prepped out everything here on the back side of that trunk pan. But no, excellent fitment overall, both sides here in the valance corners. I'm really, really happy with that. So I mentioned that everything was gonna have to come back off again, and it does. And when you're doing this, try to think 2, 3, maybe even 10 steps ahead. And it'd be really easy right now to just start blast and weld onto this tail panel in the valance section here to get it all done. But there's a very, very important bit of welding that we have to do first. And that is on the inside of this valance corner here. So there is that seam that I showed you guys earlier. The seam, you remember, that just fell off of the other car, or the other part that I pulled off here. But we're gonna have to pull all this stuff back off, actually pry the rear quarter out just a little bit, so that way we can go ahead and drill 3 holes and make sure that that seam is nice and welded. But what that'll allow me to do is get great fitment here to make sure that none of them are poking out, you know, having the bottom extension piece or this corner here poking out too far. I mean, right now things are looking pretty darn good. You guys can see it's maybe sticking out just a touch there, so we'll straighten that up here before we weld that in. But once that's done, really guys, I can then swing that piece over with the valance off, weld the valance corner to the rear cross rail here, and then really from there I'll start with the tail light section here, and then lastly finished off by the lower valance. And that's pretty much it here for the back half of the car. So yeah, we're gonna be doing a whole lot of welding today. So let's get these parts back off and get this welding started. Alrighty guys, well after the better part of a week straight of welding, grinding, a little bit of cussing in there, but no, in all honesty, this thing came out fantastic, and I'm happy to say the back half of this car is like 99% finished. And I say 99 because really the only thing left, call it that 1%, is that trunk latch support piece there. It's hard to tell here from this angle, but the bottom half of it's actually eaten away and broken. So went ahead, ordered one up through AMD. They had it in stock, should be here in the next day or two, and then we can really say that this job is entirely finished. But guys can see here, stock tail panel went back on the car, lower valance from AMD, valance corner from AMD, which by the way, that fitment is freaking phenomenal. Probably some of the better ones that I've ever done, and I think it's just a testament to this car being so damn clean when it came here into the shop. But got that patch finished up. Do have a little bit of metal finishing there up on the top, but we can go ahead and take care of that once we get it up on the rotisserie, which I actually hope is later today. But I did a bit of work here on this side too. That valance corner came out absolutely beautiful. And I did go ahead and throw a big old monster patch here on this side. Now, it's kind of a bit hard to film on this side of the car in all honesty, but really followed the exact same process as the other side. If you remember back, this bottom half here was actually cut off when it came here into my shop, and kind of was able to fit up the panel skin here, make it fit. Still have a little bit of fine tuning and tweaking to do, especially here on this side underneath of this side marker. It's just a pain. You can't really get into the side of it, so we're gonna have to get our stud welder out here and actually pop that out and yeah, make sure that that's nice and clean. But got a little toasty here in the wheelhouses. A lot of that is the epoxy burning off, just with it getting so hot here while I'm welding. But you can also see there, the tail panel support brackets here, also welded in on both sides. And really nothing to these, but making sure that your holes line up with where those mount at, where your bumper support brackets go. And yeah, just holding her flat and welding her home. But man, yeah, a lot of welding, a whole lot of grinding, and we still got a bit of finishing to do. Now, one thing that I always like to do with a job like this too is make sure the welds are nice and clean, everything's ground down, and then I will also do a quick round of body work before everything goes back in epoxy, because I really like that seamless look, seamless finish. I don't want anybody to ever be able to tell that this job was done. So that's gonna happen here in the next few days, but I'm really hoping today we can actually get started here on all the chassis stiffening stuff, and I'm hoping by the time night falls that this car is actually up on the rotisserie. So man, we're really cranking through this thing. I mean, taking a step back and looking at this car, it's really come together really quite fast. And you know, my goal is actually to have this thing all finished up for the owner and back to him by Thanksgiving. So he's gonna do all the body work, all the paint work, really finish this thing up, but we're gonna make sure that the metal work is very nice for him and a great starting place to finish this thing up. So yeah, enough talking guys. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that these videos also help you guys out with your builds, because I know I'm not the only one in the same situation with a lot of these cars. So until next time guys, take care. I'll see y'all again real soon.